Here we are, Eisenhower Library. Thank you for coming. We are going to be talking about, as you can see, beneficial electrification. We have David Weaver from Citizens Utility Board and Kate Carney from the Cook County Department of Environment and Sustainability. And I'm going to let you guys do a more in-depth introduction, if you would like. So take it away.
Thank you. So thank you very much for joining us. We are going to talk about beneficial electrification, which is just kind of a fancy way of saying going electric. And we're going to talk about it both on the road and in our homes. I'm Kate Carney, the Community Outreach Coordinator for Cook County's Department of Environment and Sustainability. And the Carbon Free Buildings Coordinator, David Weaver, is also here with us from Citizens Utility Board. We're going to talk about, just the next slide, just the highlights of what we're going to get into. We're going to introduce both of our organizations. We'll talk about what beneficial electrification is. Then we'll discuss a lot more about transportation electrification and electric vehicles. And then we will cover lots of great information about building decarbonization. To start, Cook County, our Department of Environment and Sustainability has a mission to foster healthy, resilient, and thriving communities. We really want to help provide the resources and tools to improve the quality of life, protect our natural environment, and also promote sustainability and environmental justice for all of us. Whether we're a resident or a stakeholder in another way, we all deserve the best environment and all of these things. We do this through lots of different ways, but today I'm going to be focusing on electric vehicles.
So we'll be switching off back and forth, but just a little bit about CUB. Citizens Utility Board represents ratepayers. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization founded in 1984. And our job is to fight the utility companies whenever they try to increase rates. We'll fight them at the Illinois Commerce Commission, in the courts, at the State House, and we'll also fight them on the streets, or for today, we'll fight them in the library by educating consumers on how they can save money on their bills. In addition to helping save money, we also fight for more a reliable energy system and also a renewable energy system. We have a hotline that you can call and a website with tons of information. And we also do utility bill clinics. So if you have any questions about your specific bill, you can give us a call and we'll walk through it with you, try to identify opportunities for you to save money. How I like to describe us is, like a small dog biting at the heels of the utility companies. And sometimes we can knock them down, but only through the support of consumers like you. So today we're going to talk about beneficial electrification, which is replacing direct fossil fuel use with electricity in a way that both saves you money and helps reduce overall greenhouse gas emissions. Today we'll be talking, as Kate said, about transportation and buildings, which is really crucial because in Illinois, almost 50% of our carbon emissions comes directly from transportation and buildings combined. So attacking these two problems, we can help reduce Illinois' carbon emissions. Why? Like we said, number one, when it comes to CUB, is always affordability, taking care of the consumer's wallet, the climate, as well as health. We'll get much more in depth on the health piece of this, not directly related to the planet, which of course affects everyone's health, but specifically indoor and outdoor air quality as we go through this presentation. As we said, the two main opportunities for beneficial electrification in Illinois is transportation. That's personal and commercial vehicles, as well as public transportation, and then buildings. And we could talk about heating, water heating, renewable energy. We could talk about energy efficiency and load management. And not in today's brief, but you can also talk about just zoning and how that affects the carbon that's related to buildings.
So let's get started with electric vehicles. So setting a baseline, an electric vehicle is any vehicle that can drive solely on electricity derived from a power plug. So any vehicle that you're plugging in that would be considered an electric vehicle. There are such a thing as a plug-in hybrid vehicle, which can use both gasoline and also electricity that you charge from a plug as well. Most of what we're talking about today is going to be that first one, though, the all-electric vehicle, the BEV or battery electric vehicle that is powered solely on a battery that is charged from a plug. There are some key features to an electric vehicle, especially these BEVs that we're going to be talking about. So electric motors are usually smaller and translate to a larger interior space and a much quieter drive. Many EVs also have regenerative braking, which helps to slow your vehicle more safely. And it also can help divert some energy back into the battery instead of just letting it be wasted, as happens with a traditional internal combustion engine or an ICE engine. And then there's also instant torque and no gears to grind. So that helps have a much smoother drive, quieter drive. And it's got a lot of get up and go. All EVs go from stopped to moving very quickly and easily. So this is just kind of a demonstration of the difference in an internal combustion engine versus a vehicle versus an all electric vehicle. So there is a lot less going on at the front of the car, and most of the batteries are at the bottom, helping to give it a much lower center of gravity that is useful for a lot of different reasons. Additionally, many electric vehicles, the motor and everything that's associated with the motor are a lot smaller and a lot lower. So many electric vehicles have a frunk and a trunk. So there's storage space in the front and in the rear of the car. So why would we want to talk about electric vehicles? Why does the governor want to have 1 million electric vehicles on the road by 2030? There's a lot of reasons, but reasons that most resonate with us as consumers are that first and foremost, there's a lower cost of ownership. So many electric vehicles, we'll talk more about prices, but many electric vehicles are getting more and more comparable to a more traditional internal combustion engine vehicle cost, but there's so many fewer maintenance needs because there's so many less moving parts within an electric vehicle's motor versus an internal combustion engine and all the associated parts. So because of regenerative braking, the brakes usually last longer. There's also a lot of there's state and federal tax incentives and rebates that also help to further bring down the cost of owning this vehicle or purchasing the vehicle. The equivalent cost per mile for an EV is a lot less than for an equivalent mile for gasoline. Right now, especially, electricity is far less expensive than gas is. And as gas is still fairly high, there's a huge difference. As you can see, I pulled this example from the Chevrolet website, and this is literally all of the maintenance needs for an electric vehicle for a specific Chevy model. I think this was just like the Chevy Bolt. But as you can see, the primary maintenance that's required is just keeping your tires going and making sure that your air cabin, that the air filter is still working or is nice and clean, and really don't have a lot of other fluids or things like that you need to change out the way we need to change our oil on a very regular basis in an electric or in a traditional ICE engine car. Another benefit is safety. Because of those batteries being the bottom of the car, it lowers that center of gravity and helps to offer a lot better handling. Whether the roads are wet or icy, that lower center of gravity is a lot safer for us for driving. Also, the instant torque and the regenerative braking can help to reduce slipping in icy conditions. So you're not getting those tires spinning when you're trying to start going when things are icy. And the regenerative braking helps to control the braking so that you ease into the stop a lot sooner than you would when, or potentially you would when you're controlling the brakes. Also, they're cleaner. So no tailpipe means no tailpipe emissions. So that really helps us with reducing those greenhouse gas emissions, helps to keep particulate matter out of the air, which we're breathing, and out of the atmosphere. These are all components of the greenhouse gases that our tailpipes emit right now. So less carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxides, formaldehyde and this particulate matter, which can really do a lot of damage to our lungs. So this is a really important health benefit to all of us. Also, there's a lot of charging options. So right now, this map is a rough estimate of all of the charging stations, the public charging stations available across Cook County. They are different levels, which we'll talk about, but this infrastructure is growing every day. More private companies are adding charging stations to their facilities for their staff and employees and customers. Cook County is currently working on a program to try to fill in some of these charging deserts where you see these big spaces that there's no chargers in currently. And then at the state and federal level, there's also tons of charging infrastructure that is coming into play. There's also a lot of options for finding public charging. As you can see here, there's a couple of companies like PlugShare and ChargePoint, which service and they're basically like a gas station equivalent for charging. So let's talk a little more about charging. So there's 3 primary levels of charging stations. The first one is the AC level 1. It is a slower charge. So a lot of people describe it as kind of a trickle of a charge into your electric vehicle. This is best when you are able to just plug it right into one of your outlets, whether it's in your garage or on the exterior of your home. You're going to want to charge it overnight when rates are low and demand is low, and you have time to get your full charge back. A lot of times, if you're just doing your normal everyday driving around, this is going to charge it up pretty quickly because you haven't had to reduce your battery to very low. And it's very accessible. It just is like a 3-pronged plug that you find in your home. It's the same thing. The AC level 2 does require that you would need an upgraded power source, but you can have that installed in your house. It's the same thing for like an electric dryer plug. That's the 220 volts. So it's very similar to access that we already have in our homes. This one charges quite a bit faster. It's not the fastest, but this you can find. You could upgrade to have this in your home. You'll also find it in a lot of public charging stations. Cook County has some electric vehicles. That's what we have for fleet charging, those types of things. And then there's the fast chargers. So when you hear about like a Tesla charging station or a lot of the new ones that are being built now, this is the DC fast charger. So with these, you can generally get about 80% of the charge of the total charge of your battery in a half an hour or less. They are a little more expensive when you're charging out in public. These generally aren't free. There is usually a fee associated with the fast chargers, whereas you can find the level 1 and level 2 charging free or very low cost in public. These generally you wouldn't install this at your home. I mean, you could, but that would be a pretty big expense. But these are like the deluxe charging. Also, this is the fuel cost chart. That is from a Consumer Reports electric vehicle ownership costs from their October 2020 report. So these numbers aren't even 100% accurate anymore, because in October of 2020, gas prices were a lot lower than what they are now or what they got up to over the last 2 years. But if you look at just your standard sedan, the fuel costs for driving 15,000 miles would run you at least $1,400, given the average gas price in October 2020, versus only around $620 or an $800 savings to drive the same number of miles in an electric vehicle based on electricity charges. So as you can see, each of the types of vehicles that it shows on here all have significant gasoline savings. Also, there are a ton of incentives that are happening right now. So starting back on July 1st was the first round of CEJA rebates from the state of Illinois. So if you purchased an electric vehicle within a 90-day window, you could submit for a $4,000 rebate, which is just like a check. These are good for new or used vehicles. The current window is until the end of this month. So if you've purchased an electric vehicle recently, you'll want to get that application in to receive your $4,000 rebate. There are additional rebates or different rebates for like an all electric motorcycle. There's I think it's $1,500. And the great thing about that is it could be a new or used electric vehicle. There's a lot less rules to being eligible for that rebate. You just have to do it within a window and a period of time from when you've bought the vehicle, and you have to make sure you fill out the form correctly on the Illinois EPA website. Additionally, up to 80% of the cost to install level 2 or 3 charging stations in public locations can be reimbursed from Illinois. And then there's also a lot of personal like electricity options that can really help to even lower your fueling charging costs even further. There are also a bunch of federal tax credit changes that just went into effect at the first of the year. So there are some credits you can get for buying new vehicles through the federal government. They are limited by I'm sorry, I'm mixing it up. They may have stopped the limits by manufacturer starting the first of the year, but they do have a website that you can go to check the status. So a lot of people have already bought Teslas. So Teslas had already capped out. So purchasing a new Tesla wasn't going to get you that tax credit, but they have made some changes, and that's definitely something to look into. And then there's a new Inflation Reduction Act incentives, and you can go to that webpage to see all of those. And now I pass that over to you, David.
Yeah, thank you. Very informative. So building decarbonization, it's once again, we're moving away from heating our homes and our water and using our dryers or cooking through gas towards electricity. And it's, it could be a lot more than that as well. It can, there's the embodied carbon when you develop the building. Are we, using concrete in the pouring of the foundation, because concrete is one of the largest carbon emissions, and everything that goes into that. We're not going to discuss that today, but it's an important part of the puzzle when we talk about building decarbonization. Then there's the direct emissions that come from using a gas stove, using a furnace, using a gas-powered dryer in the home. You're literally burning natural gas, or in some places of the country, oil or propane, and that's a direct emission related to the building. Then there's indirect emissions. So that's when you have a coal power plant or a natural gas power plant that's burning fossil fuels and have significant greenhouse gas emissions that to create electricity, which is then used by that house. So those are the 3 parts of the puzzle that when we talk about building decarbonization that we want to get after. The first and the foremost, the best thing you could do is energy efficiency. Energy efficiency, the cleanest and the cheapest kilowatt hour or therm is the one you don't have to use. If you have, really great insulation in your home, it's weatherized, you have really efficient appliances, instead of using 100 kilowatt hours, it only uses 10, for example, that would be significant energy efficiency that can reduce emissions and save you money. Electrification, which we're going to focus on today, that's switching from gas to electricity. Renewable generation, cleaning up that indirect emissions. Although I will point out that using electricity, even if it is somewhat created from fossil fuels, is still cleaner and more efficient than using fossil fuels to heat your home directly. So people sometimes say, I don't want to get an electric vehicle because it's not actually cleaner because the electricity is coming from natural gas. Well, that's a myth, and it's not true. And then demand response, which we'll touch on partly today, but we offer other webinars that go more in depth on demand response. So why is this so important for us in Illinois? Well, we like to take a lot of pride in our state and our city, and unfortunately, Illinois is the third worst when it comes to using natural gas. Only California and New York are worse than us, and when we consider population sizes, it's not looking good for us at all. So why electrify? Well, let's talk about emissions over 15 years. So using a heat pump, you can see the bottom three lines, the light blue, the dark blue, and the green are all different types of heat pumps. The dark blue is a heat pump that's using almost no renewable energy, and it still is going to be much more cleaner for the environment than burning natural gas or propane directly. So we can see over the 15-year period, switching to electric is far better for the planet. Health. Promise we talk about this a lot or a little bit at the beginning of the presentation. A lot of us don't think about it, but when we're burning natural gas in our homes to cook, that flame is right there in our homes. And most of us don't have actual vents that take that and move it outdoors. So homes with gas stoves can have 50 to 400% higher emissions in the home than electric stoves. And the most concerning part of all this is children who are in a home that have a gas stove are 42% more likely to develop asthma or other respiratory illnesses. We tend to think about outdoor air pollution a lot, but we forget to think about what's happening in our home, especially as we better insulate our homes and weatherize our home to keep the cool or the hot out of our homes. We're making it more difficult to get the fumes that are coming off out of our homes. So it's a pretty significant issue. There's even talk right now about a federal ban on gas stoves. So we'll see if that actually happens. Obviously, the gas industry is going to lobby to prevent that. So we'll see. But if you own your home and you have a gas stove, I would highly recommend that you switch to an electric stove, particularly an induction stove. We'll talk a little bit about that more when we get into incentives, because there's federal money to be had for that. Affordability. Let's talk wallets. As we can see, since 2020, gas prices have skyrocketed, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's only going to go up. There's many reasons for this. Part of the problem is people are more aware of the negative externalities associated with mining natural gas. When you mine natural gas, the nearby area, there's a lot of pollution, a lot of water pollution opportunities, and then there's increase in earthquakes. So I think no one wants fracking in their backyard. And as more people get aware of all the issues with this, there's going to be more local resistance to putting in a mine near people. Then there's the global, gas crisis that's going on with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and climate change and extreme climate events that are happening, all that contribute to making natural gas more and more expensive. And it's only going to get worse, especially because the gas companies, at least in Illinois, are asking for massive rate increases. As of last week, Peoples Gas asked for a $402 million rate hike, which increased the rate by 60% since their last one in 2015. Nicor Gas requested $321 million rate hike, all the while they're already making record profits off of our backs. So this is a huge issue when it comes to affordability, and switching away from gas is just going to save us money, help the planet, and help your health all at once. So it's the right answer. So the first step when it comes to building decarbonization in our homes is energy efficiency. As I said earlier, the cleanest and cheapest energy is the energy we don't have to use. Particularly when it comes to how we invest our money in home improvements. Every dollar you spend on energy efficiency tends to save you $3 in energy costs. So it's the most effective way to spend your money for home energy improvements. The very first step you should take is either the home energy assessment, which both Nicor and ComEd offer for free. You can go to their website and they'll come into your home, or they'll schedule a virtual assessment where they'll talk to you about how you can improve your energy efficiency in your home. And they'll also bring with them light bulbs, insulation for hot water pipes, a host of other things for free, which they'll install right there. And they'll also bring some things with them like smart thermostats, which if you're income eligible, they'll install for free. And if you're not, they'll give you at an extreme discount, which you can then set your thermos, your furnace up to go down every single night. You set it once and you're done. Or, if you forgot to set your heat down when you go on vacation from the airport, you can pull up the smart app and adjust it right there. That all being said, the free home energy assessment from ComEd and Nicor's Gas, it's good, but it's not great. The great answer is a home energy audit, but that usually costs up to $500. But people will, the contractor will come to your home, they'll test your windows, they'll test your doors, your insulation, and they'll spot by spot tell you how you can best spend your money to best improve the energy efficiency of your home. And it's a much more comprehensive report that they provide to you. That being said, the federal government's offering a $150 tax credit for people who have a home energy audit conducted. So it's this is the very first step, and we'll talk about the next steps, but this is what I recommend to everyone. Last thing I'll say on this slide is now is the best time for home energy improvements. One, because you'll start saving money immediately, and then two, the feds are going to be offering a lot of money through the Inflation Reduction Act incentives. So when you look at home energy, when you look at the Inflation Reduction Act, there's a couple of different ways that they break out the incentives. One of them is energy efficiency and weatherization tax credits. This is for everyone from the governor himself to the poorest renter in Illinois, and anywhere in the nation qualify. You get up to 30% tax credit for qualified projects, up to $1,200 annually. So every single year you can use another $1,200. As mentioned, you can get that $150 for home energy audits, which is that very first step. But maybe you get that home energy audit and they say, hey, you're losing a lot of energy through your doors. You can replace your doors. It's up to $500, $250 per door. Also, you can get this for windows or skylights, and that's up to $600. And then also, I think just as important is you can use up to $600 for upgrading your air conditioning, electrical panel upgrades. As we talk about all these electrification projects further on in this presentation, sometimes you have to upgrade your electrical panel to handle all these new electrical appliances. And the feds thought ahead and decided to offer the $600 incentive, also for water heaters or water boilers. One additional thing to talk about is there's a $2,000 tax credit, which doesn't touch your $1,200 yearly, but you can only use this $2,000 once. And that's for upgrading your space or water heaters with electric efficient models. How to electrify homes, moving from this insulation and energy efficiency to straight electrification. Heat pumps is one of the best ways to heat your home. As we saw in that earlier slide, it's the cleanest, and I'll have a future slide here that'll show you the cost comparison. But both air source and geothermal heat pumps are way more efficient, and it'll save you money and the planet. Gas stoves, induction stoves. A lot of people believe the gas industry's propaganda that a gas stove is way better to cook on. I believed it myself, but I recently was able to cook on an induction stove. And it's the most efficient, so it saves you money, but it also heats everything faster. So if you're boiling a pot of water, the fastest way to boil that pot of water is on an induction stove. Then there's also the safety piece of it. I grew up with an electric stove as a kid because my mom had huge hair, and she refused to let her mom, my grandma, cut it up until the point where her hair caught on fire from the gas stove. And obviously terrifying, traumatic event for my mom. So when I was a kid, she ensured that we had an electric stove. But that was before the awesome induction stoves that are out now. From a safety perspective, there's no open flame. There's no nitric oxide coming off. There's no particulate matter coming off, causing asthma and other respiratory illnesses. And in fact, you could turn it on high and put your bare hand on the stove and you won't feel any heat. It works via magnets. So you also can't use like a glass pot on an induction stove. It has to be a specific type of metal pot, which most pots are. That being said, once you've been boiling water or cooking on it for an hour, if you move that pot off, it's going to be hot because there's a hot pot sitting on it. But about a minute and a half later, it's back to being perfectly cool and you can touch it with your hand again. So it's just from a safety perspective, wonderful. There's also heat pumps for water heating, which is usually the second most costly energy use in homes. So switching to an efficient heat pump, water heater, or geothermal heat pumps is a great way to save money and be better for the planet. And the last thing is dryers, switching to dryers that use electricity instead of gas. So talking about affordability, this chart on the right is actually only for air source heat pumps, which is the second most efficient way to heat your homes. The most efficient is geothermal, which we'll get onto more in a moment. But for this slide, you can see it's temperature based. So as it gets colder, heat pumps are less effective, but they're still more efficient at heating your home than natural gas, propane, or oil up until about -5 degrees. Fortunately for us in Illinois, there's an average of 8 mornings a year where it gets below 0, and that's not even below 5. So, 95% of the time, it's more efficient to heat your homes via air source heat pumps. And the few times that it is colder than -5, heat pumps will still heat your home. It'll just be a little bit more expensive than it would have cost to use natural gas. But 95% of the time, you're saving money from using the electric heat pump. So when it comes to deciding how you're going to heat your home, Cubs research shows that you can save $24,700 to $47,000 across the lifetime of your heat pump to switch to it. So immense savings. Adding in geothermal heat pumps, you can see it's got the lowest operating costs of even the most efficient air source heat pumps, but certainly more than the most efficient natural gas heat pumps. So it's just significant savings if you switch to heat pumps. The IRA electrification rebates. So the Inflation Reduction Act that was signed in August by Congress allocates $263.6 million to the state of Illinois to help low and moderate income Illinoisans transition from natural gas over the next 10 years. So if you need to replace your furnace 5 years from now, you may not want to replace it now because this rebates will still be available for 5 years up until 10 years from now. However, it is a first come, first serve. So if we, as a state of Illinois, run through all that money, Congress isn't likely to allocate us anymore with the two different parties ruling Congress. So I would encourage you to replace them soon. If you just bought a furnace, maybe the finances don't make sense, but now's the time to do it, even if you think you got another 5 years on your furnace. When it comes to low and moderate income, they define that as 80% of area median income, which is nice because it doesn't compare you to anyone but the area that you live in. And the link on the bottom of the slide is where you can type in your address and it'll tell you what the area median income is. But if you make less than 80% of that, then you can get 100% coverage of whatever electric appliance you're buying up to $14,000 cap. If you're at 150% or lower, then you qualify for 50% off all the electric appliances up to a $14,000 cap. So a little bit more nuance to how these apply versus just the 30% everyone gets for the tax credits, but pretty important, and that tool is very helpful. So what do these rebates cover? So $840 for an electric stove, cooktop, range, oven, or clothes dryer. So now's the time to swap those out. A further $1,600 for insulation, air sealing, and ventilation, which can be combined with those tax credits that we discussed earlier. Up to $1,750 for a heat pump water heater. If you're going to move off of gas and you're interested in an air source heat pump, I also recommend an air source heat pump water heater. Because if you're going to get rid of gas for heating your home, you might as well get rid of gas for heating your water, and they're more efficient than gas heaters anyways. Once again, all these electric appliances may require electric wiring. For example, if you're going to remove your gas stove and replace it with an electric stove, you probably need to upgrade the outlets behind the stove from a 110 to a 220 volt. And this money, this $2,500 can help cover that. And once again, there's another $4,000 for upgrading electric panels if necessary, and up to $8,000 for air source heat pumps, which is significant, especially when you consider that heat pumps work by moving heat energy. So it replaces your air conditioner and it replaces your heater. It does the job of both with one appliance. This is really critical when you think about maintenance costs. A lot of people sign up for maintenance programs for their AC and a different maintenance program for their furnace. So instead of paying $200 to maintain both of them, you just spend $100 to maintain one. And then if you throw in the heat pump water heater, you're just going through one place instead of different places. So lots of incentives here. Renewable energy. There's also tax incentives for rooftop solar. I'm also going to talk about community solar, even though it's not a part of the IRA. And then the IRA also provides incentives for geothermal and batteries. So rooftop solar. Right now, I truly believe that there's no better place to install solar panels on your roof than Illinois. We don't just get the federal incentives, we also get state incentives. So the federal investment tax credit is 30% of the cost of installation of your solar panels, and it is a tax credit. So if you are not making enough taxable income, this might not actually help you, but maybe you're making some taxable income, just not enough to get 30% back from your installation. You can use, some of it this year, some of it next year. It does roll over. So very, very helpful. Then on top of that, the state of Illinois has solar renewable energy credits, or SRECs. This is through the Illinois Shines program, which was passed with the Clean and Equitable Jobs Act. And so it usually covers between 30 to 40% of how much your system will cost you. So if you look at that, that's 60 to 70% off of your rooftop solar panels between the federal incentives and the state incentives. So it's a no-brainer. This is the time to do it. There's no better state in the union that has this great incentive program. There's also something called utility net metering that every state doesn't have, that Illinois has. What that means is, let's say in August, when your solar panels are generating more electricity than pretty much any other month of the year, if you don't use all of that electricity that was generated, it rolls over continuously across the year up until, I believe, April, when there's a true out. But January, when your system's not producing as much because the days are shorter, you could still be using energy that you had produced back in August. So it's a really great way to potentially not pay, electricity bills year round, especially when you transition away from gas and you're using an electric heater for your home. It all flows together really nicely. So if you don't own your own roof, or your roof is in, it needs to be repaired soon, or there's a lot of trees or some other reason there's a lot of shade on your roof, you don't want to install solar panels, there's also a really wonderful program called Community Solar. This is a program where you end up getting two bills. You pay a subscription fee to a community solar program where they install solar panels somewhere in your county, and you're giving them money to help them develop and maintain their system, and they're giving you a subscription to their credits that takes money off of your bill. So what that looks like is, maybe you'll get a $50 bill from the community solar program. You'll give them $50. Or maybe $40, but on your electricity bill, you see $10 to $20 off more. So let's just say you're paying $40 to be a part of the program. You'll see a $50 credit on your electricity bill, saving you $10. Most people in Illinois save $10 to $20 who participate in community solar, and fortunately in ComEd territory, it's very safe. There's a few wrinkles to this program. If you have municipal electricity source, you really need to check the work on that, and happy to give us a call and we'll talk you through it, because you might not save money if you have municipal solar. So that's just kind of the big wrinkle to discuss if you do have that. But if you just have ComEd, then this is a great program for you, and I highly recommend it. Everyone should sign up for this because $10 or $20 every month adds up very fast. This is what I was talking about. You'll get a electric bill that has minus $50, but then you'll get the community solar bill charging you $40. So you'll save a net $10. Kind of confusing because you get two different bills, but it'll save you $10 or $20. And if you have any questions, just feel free to call us on our hotline and we'll discuss it. So geothermal heat pumps, these are the most efficient way to heat and cool your home and your water. It uses the energy stored in the ground. What it does is when it's hot outside, just like your refrigerator works by moving the heat outside your refrigerator. You can't create cold by using electricity or using burning gas. Those can create heat, but they can't create cold. So what it does is it moves the heat from your fridge and it pumps it out. That's why sometimes you could feel warm air coming out from the bottom of a fridge. That's that heat pump working. Now, geothermal heat pump works in two directions. So in your house, if it's hot in your house and you want to cool your house, it just like that fridge, it pumps that heat down and stores it into the ground. Conversely, on a cold day, when you want to heat your home, it takes that energy stored in the ground and pumps it into your home. It's the most efficient way to heat your home because it's not creating heat, it's just moving heat. And the ground stays, at least in Northern Illinois, it's 58 degrees year round, a couple feet under the ground. And geothermal can either go very deep or very wide, depending on your yard and how that has to work. And you can also use it to heat and cool your water in your home. So in theory, it replaces your AC unit, your furnace, and your water heater all for one unit. And the nice thing about geothermal is your pipes are guaranteed to last for 50 years. And in Illinois, they usually last well over 100 years. It'd be a different discussion if we were in San Francisco or another place that's more earthquake prone, but we don't have that problem here. And then the system itself, the heat pump system, that's indoors. So it's not exposed to the elements like an AC unit is, for example. So they tend to last 20, 25 years as well. So they last longer, they save you maintenance money, and there's tons of and it saves you tons of money every single month by being the most efficient system. Plus, there's tons of great incentives. So your average home, the upfront cost might be 25 grand. That's significant. That's a big hurdle. However, there's that 7.5 grand clean energy tax credit, which is the 30% I was just talking about. The federal government will pay 30% of this program and give it to you as a tax credit, which you can roll over multiple years. Then there's the $2,500 home energy tax credit as well that can be applied to it. And in ComEd territory, you can get up to a $9,000 rebate on geothermal heat pumps. ComEd's got great incentives to steal you from the gas company. If you heat and cool your home via electricity, they know that home is going to be an electric company customer for the rest of that home's life. So they're gonna see a return on that over many decades. So if you do the math with me, that means this system could only cost you 6.5 grand potentially, with an estimated yearly savings of $1,750. It's only going to take you 3.7 years to get a return on investment. Of course, if you just bought a new furnace or if you just bought a new air conditioner unit, you may have already gone over that 6.5 grand. So this is a no-brainer system if you need to replace your furnace or your air conditioner soon, and you have the space to do this program. If you have a very small yard, it's more difficult, but there are a couple of small rigs in the state of Illinois that can get into really tight spots. So it's worth asking for an inspection and a free quote. It's just a fantastic system. I think the last thing to discuss today is batteries. So the Inflation Reduction Act also offers a 30% tax credit for batteries. So if you already have solar panels and you already have insulated your home and you've already changed your electrification, this might be a great way to continue to expand the energy efficiency in your home. All of these incentives from the Inflation Reduction Act and the state of Illinois can be combined with utility incentives. So as we discussed with the geothermal example, ComEd, there are ways to save page. Mid-American, Ameren, all the utility companies in the state have some sort of programs that we recommend you look into. So this slide just shows you some of the great links to find those incentives. I will note a lot of those incentives require upfront approval. So you can't, install your geothermal system and then ask ComEd for $9,000. You got to ask them first. Important note. So we have a couple minutes left for any questions, and I think Kate and I are ready to take them.
Thank you, Kate and David. I am definitely looking forward to getting a copy of this recording because there's some nice links I'm gonna want to look at. One question, David, on I think, as you know, I'm looking at the geothermal. And on the rebates and credits on that, are those, I noticed that you, in your example, the upfront cost was $25,000. Are the credits and rebates fixed values, or are they percentages of the upfront cost?
So the first clean energy tax credit is 30%. So it's not fixed value, it's percentage based. The home energy tax credit is fixed value. Great question. And I'll also use this opportunity to plug Citizens Utility Board, along with the Geothermal Alliance of Illinois and the Midwest Renewable Energy Association are currently designing a group buy for geothermal heat pumps. So the more people who participate, the cheaper the heat pump will be for each participant. And we're looking to launch that in April. So stay tuned on our website, join our newsletter, and we'll provide more information as that comes to help you save money on both geothermal heat pumps, and also there'll be a different program for air source heat pumps. And on top of that, every year for the last 6 or 7 years, we've been doing a solar program that begins in the spring as well to help people save money on solar panels.
And Cook County is very excited to co-sponsor, so we will help make sure that group buy program, well, both of them, both the geothermal and heat pump and also grow solar are accessible to all our Cook County residents.
Sorry, yes, Cook County is a strong
problem.
ally and a huge supporter of this. It was my terrible bad to not include them in that.
No. I just want to make sure we're going to help try to make sure that all the great work that CUB and the other organizations are doing are accessible to our residents. That's all I was adding. So just keep an eye on it. Between CUB and Cook County, we'll make sure that info gets out.
Are there, one other question on the geothermal, is there any information out there on either recommended vendors or just a general vendor list of geothermal contractors?
Yes, really great question. So what my recommendation is, you go to Geothermal Alliance of Illinois' website, and I'll put that in the chat window here in a second. If you go to their website, they have a page that lists all of the certified installers in the state. And that's what I think GAOI does a really great job with their homework to verify who's doing it in the state properly and safely, to make sure that you can trust your installer.
I just added the main link for Geothermal Alliance, and then right away you can click on find a contractor.
Yeah, I think I did check that out because I think David sent that to me after last week. I'll have to check it out again. I did not see that many contractors in the Chicago area, but I will check it out again. Maybe I was looking at the Champaign portion of that. I'll have to look again.
Yeah, that it's a growing industry in Illinois, but there's the Chicago area. There are installers in Chicago itself. A little bit more difficult because there's a very long permitting process. So there's a lot less installers who are willing to work in Chicago right now. So air source heat pump might be the best option for most Chicagoans.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, I think I'd really like to thank Cook County for organizing this and Eisenhower Library for hosting this. It's a wonderful opportunity, and thank you very much for bringing us in to talk to your residents.
Well, thank you for it. It was really informative.